The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Kathy Little. I'm the Client Relations Manager here at Product Space. We are so excited to present you information on PLM cloud technology. We've just been looking forward to today's Quickbytes topic of PLM cloud stations leveraging the cloud, which will help you understand how the cloud technology can be leveraged for product development. Also, we'd like to hear from you about your experience with the cloud and any concerns that you have in your PLM environment using the cloud. If you want, you can send us a note at my email address, which was on your invite. At this time, you should see a poll appearing on your screen, and we'd like you to take a moment to respond to that. We certainly appreciate your response. As always, during the presentation, your mics will be muted, but you can post your questions in the chat room, and we will answer them during the Q&A session. We will now begin our presentation with Ravi Dhamalingam.
Thank you, Kathy, and thanks everybody for joining today. Today's topic, we'll talk about how you can leverage the cloud technology with your Windchill system that's running in-house. Even though you might not be fully in the cloud, how you can start using some of the features in the cloud to benefit your end users. So we'll hit on the following topics. I'll start with giving an overview of how you can use cloud technology to use cloud as a content delivery platform to your remote locations across the world, and some benefits of using cloud for backup and recovery, and how you could use cloud-based systems for developing full-fledged testing frameworks and for test environments to validate everything before you deploy something into production. And as far as connecting to the cloud, we'll talk about a few options you have there as well, whether you want to use an open framework, connecting directly using HTTPS, or you also have the option of treating the cloud as an extension to your data center, and you could still keep everything internal and use dedicated VPN connections to connect your data center to the cloud. So we'll start with what a content delivery framework is. So essentially, content delivery networks have been around for a while, delivering static and dynamic content using local edge and cache servers across the world. I mean, this is pretty much being used by all the popular websites that are there right now. So how would we do something like this in Windchill? I mean, essentially, we would use a file server, a local file server in the location that you need access to. And so we'll talk about some of the drawbacks of doing that. So before that, I think this is one of the measures that we use to find out when you need a local cache server. So latency is a key parameter that you want to measure from a destination to the website to see how much is your round trip traffic taking. And from our experience, we would say anything over 50 milliseconds is too high, and you might want to consider having a local or a regional cache server at that point in time. And just to let you know, I think one of the tools that we've been using and works really well is a TC Ping. That's a freeware tool that's available for download. You can measure latency through HTTP or HTTPS ports directly. So going back to content delivery options for Windchill, as we talked about, basically we have to set up a local file server within the local area network of a remote site. That's kind of the predominant option that most customers do at this point in time. So from our experience, what we have seen is local file servers are usually not as secure as your master server. I mean, I know a lot of us have master servers located in secure data centers with authorized access only. But when it comes to a local remote file server, these are usually located in somebody's desktop or something like that. The remote site doesn't have that much IT staff. So the security that you have on your local file server is not as good as what you have on a master server. And I mean, as we all know, the data itself, the content data itself in Windchill out of the box is not encrypted. So unauthorized users could still get access to your Windchill content if your local file server is not properly secured. And the one other thing we run into often is it's not feasible to have a local file server if you are interfacing with third-party vendors or suppliers in remote areas in the world. It's not an option for you to go and put a file server in their network. So in those locations, the users have to connect to the master to perform various actions, which could really take a long time to perform some of those. So cloud replicas can really help in addressing these kind of issues. So how would we go about setting up a cloud replica? Essentially, what we are proposing is you could start with setting up a virtual private cloud in a region that's closest to your remote location. Test your latency connections from the remote site to the cloud location. Again, use some of the tools like the ones we mentioned earlier. And I mean, again, Red Hat Linux is the cheapest platform that you could use on the cloud, which is supported by PTC Windchill. Use EBS volumes, and then once you have that, I mean, essentially it would work just like any other replica host. You just need to make sure you either have HTTPS connections enabled or a dedicated VPN connection. So we'll show you an architecture on both of those. In this case, let's say you have a customer or end user in Asia, and your primary site is in the United States, and you want to give them access, but without, I mean, you're having the same issues of setting up a local file server within their network. One of the options could be, I mean, you could set up a file server using the Amazon location in Singapore and enable, I mean, if you want to keep the Windchill site internal only, you could just enable SSL VPN connection from the master to your file server location in the cloud and allow HTTPS access for the end user to download files from the cloud location. So with this architecture, you still have full control over the cloud location. I mean, basically, you can manage the cloud directly from here, the file server directly from here, and it's completely secured. Another option, again, talked earlier, is, I mean, if you want to use direct HTTPS connections, that should work fine as well. I mean, so that way you could don't have to go for a VPN connection. You could just directly allow all systems to communicate through HTTPS. So just to recap some of the benefits of using cloud replicas, I mean, you could allow your users in remote locations to get faster access to content when it's not feasible for you to set up a local file server. And actually, this could be more secure in many cases than having an uncontrolled local file server at a remote location. And then this can be configured or removed whenever you need. There is no upfront cost. You can just have a replica server. Let's say you're doing a project with a supplier for a few months. You could just have a replica in a site for just 3 months, and then you can take it away. And there's no, and you only pay for what's actually used. So these are the regions that Amazon Cloud currently supports. And I mean, as you can see, I think it covers most of the major regions of the world. So I mean, for example, if you're looking for a supplier or working with a supplier in Europe, you would look at the site in Ireland and check your, I mean, before you put the server up, you want to do some checks on the latency and so on. As long as it's acceptable, you can proceed with setting up a file server over there. So now we'll talk about some other benefits that you can gain from using cloud for backup and recovery. So again, for backup and recovery, Amazon offers what's called a gateway service, which is basically a virtual machine that you can download from Amazon and install in your network. And doing that allows you to securely back up all your backup information into Amazon's S3 storage bucket in the cloud. And the storage itself is completely encrypted and can only be accessed by you. And so again, you can determine however long you want to keep those backups. There are multiple layers of service available. With S3, you can instantaneously recover the files. But if you want to keep some files for a longer term, you could consider moving some of the older files into what's called a Glacier backup service, which really costs like 1/10 of what S3 costs. So if you want to keep your backup for a month's period in S3 and then move the older backups to Glacier, that is actually a preferred approach. That way you save on your backup costs. So here is a schematic that shows how you would typically get this kind of backup service working. So your traditional server could be your Windchill and your database server, and you have your hot backups running for database, and you have your file vault incremental backups going on. So you basically copy all those to your storage service, which essentially pushes that into an Amazon S3 bucket. And then you could have scripts and configuration in there to move backups as they mature. I mean, like after 30 days, you want to move them to Glacier or something like that. You could have those configurations set up so that your backups are stored for however long you want it retained. So one of the major benefits of using an Amazon cloud-based backup is basically once you have the scripts in place, you can instantaneously recover. I mean, essentially, disaster recovery basically comes as a built-in offering because you have instances available for you at any point in time that you could use to recover your backup. And so this is not just for disaster recovery. I mean, essentially, let's consider a scenario where you have somebody had deleted some files from a few days back, and I mean, basically today's scenario, I mean, we wouldn't go through the effort of going through a full recovery just to recover one file. But if you had a setup like this, you could theoretically recover a new instance in the cloud for that particular time frame and recover that file, and then you can remove that instance. I mean, essentially, it keeps all your current system running without impact, and you could basically use the cloud framework to do point-in-time recoveries, even if you wanted to troubleshoot or recover point files related to some application issues. And cloud backup is much cheaper than the in-house backup services that we have seen, so that's another reason to consider. Again, this is highly secure, uses a high degree of encryption, and can only be accessed by authorized users. One other main use case that we have seen, which is really useful for the cloud, is using cloud as a testing framework. Again, this goes hand in hand with having the backup service. So once you have all your backups in the cloud, you can basically instantiate an instance of your production configuration as a test instance in the cloud at any point in time. And you could use a framework like Jmeter distributed testing to basically simulate a distributed global load test kind of scenario where you have the system load coming in from different parts of the world and testing major releases to Windchill or major configuration changes that you're making to your system. You could use a framework like this to fully test your system in a framework outside of your current system to fully validate functionality before releasing it. So again, you can basically run full functional and load testing on the environment before you release any major changes. And again, you have no hardware or no upfront costs on your end. It's only, again, on a pay-per-use basis. So we talked about this earlier on. I mean, what are the options to connect to the cloud? And So primarily, one of the easiest options is if you have your current systems open internet facing using HTTPS, you could have virtual private clouds in different parts of the world, and you could just interface to them using HTTPS. Again, this offers a very good degree of security for you, but if your systems or if your processes do not allow open internet access, you would also treat the cloud as an extension to your data center, have dedicated hardware VPNs which will restrict the access to your cloud instances completely within your local network. In that case, your cloud is essentially treated as an extension to your data center, but still gives you the benefits of reaching your end users in across the world in different regions. So with that, I turn it over to Kathy.
Thank you, Ravi. That was a great presentation. It was really good. We will now begin the Q&A session for questions that you posted in the chat room. And as we transition to Q&A, you'll see another quick poll appear on your screen, and we appreciate you responding to that as well. Beginning with questions now. Question 1. Do you have numbers or a calculator that shows cloud backup is cheaper than in-house backup and recovery?
We have done some analysis, and we can get that data to you. I mean, I don't have those in front of me right now, but basically the costs at a high level, the cost that we have seen is to back up about 100 gigabytes of data into S3 bucket. S3 is the immediate access storage. It costs about $9 a month with Amazon. And then if you move that into longer term Glacier storage, that really costs 1/10 of what S3 costs. So that's the costs on the Amazon side. We can basically get you more information on that if needed.
Okay, that completes our question and answer session. Thanks everyone for the questions that you posted, and we certainly appreciate your participation. Feel free to contact us anytime. If you have a topic you would like covered in Quickbytes, you can submit it via the link on our invite page. And you can view all our Quickbytes sessions on our webpage at quickbytes.windchill360.com. And you can register for our next topic of Windchill integration with SharePoint as well. Thanks everyone. Have a great week.